This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, truth seekers and truth crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome to the show Nolan Del Campo.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, indeed. I'm glad it's Friday. Oh, maybe 7 more hours of work and then we'll be done, right? I'm working backwards in following up on some comments that were made, some on LinkedIn, some on YouTube. First, I wanted to talk about, I started to mention it last week. It is a series that is on Prime, Amazon Prime, and it's called The World's Most Evil Prisoners. And I found kind of like this cross-connection type scenario that I thought was extremely interesting. And this criminal named Ricky Dubose. I feel like I've heard his name before. Obviously, this is a more current criminal. But these are people who have been convicted of very dangerous crimes. They go into prison and they continue to kill, assault correctional officers and inmates and other people. And for whatever reason, they keep getting put back into population with individuals they can hurt again.
Wow.
Now, some might say, oh, let them fight it out. They're all criminals. And so what happens to them in there? But some people are so dangerous that they're just not even worthy of being around people who are there to protect them, such as the correctional officers.
Right. Should be like caged animals, really, for the protection.
100%. And not even that 1 hour a day out, because that 1 hour a day out means that they have to come in contact with another individual that they will likely take a shot at.
I used to do parole hearings for life criminals. That means they committed murder or other life crimes. And they put me in a small visiting area, legal visiting area, and the person would be unhandcuffed and just free to attack me, basically. And the guards wouldn't even pay much attention. They didn't really care about me because they figure I'm a defense lawyer. So screw him.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I finally stopped doing it. It was too heavy duty.
Yeah, no, that would be way too much stress for me.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky Dubose kills 2 correctional officers during a transport to prison, and then he is hung himself, and I air quote it only because, from a bed in prison. And the likeness that they show again is one similar to that of Epstein, where there's that huge controversy as to why all the cameras went out and why all the guards were sleeping and how the hyoid bone got broken when it was impossible to do because he didn't literally, fall from any height. He basically just put a noose around his neck and leaned forward, which I highly doubt anybody's really got the balls to be able to do. I mean, that's a very harsh way to kill yourself, I guess. And of course, the question of Epstein's father as to whether or not it was possible led him to have a secondary autopsy done, which found the broken hyoid bone. This gentleman hung himself like Epstein from a bed in prison, but the family of one of the slain correctional officers doesn't buy it and is questioning it. And so that brings us back to, did the correctional system or law enforcement take things into their own hand because this man had killed 2 of their own?
That's my hypothesis.
That's one of the family's hypotheses, is they thought this was just way too easy for this man to get out. And obviously he's willing to do just about anything to stay alive and out of prison. So why would he then just turn around and kill himself miraculously? Yeah. Either way, one less person, I suppose, that we have to pay for with our tax dollars, which brings into another question, why we're paying for individuals that are like this and why they stay on death row so long that they're capable of actually killing and harming other people throughout that process. It's disgusting. Some of the YouTube comments that we have here is somebody commenting on Dennis Kaufman's The Real Story by Dennis Kaufman on the Zodiac, says great work. Now, I know that the next comment is over 2 years old, but I just love seeing this stuff. I'm convinced. Thank you for your dedication to the victims. This again goes out to Dennis Kaufman because I am not the person who created that docuseries or documentary. I am just replaying it intermittently throughout this process.
Is that David Faraday on the left?
One of the
victims? It looks
yes,
like it.
I believe so. I believe so. Last week, I talked about Nancy R. Owens Jones. This individual came to me on LinkedIn and indicated that, well, I'll just read basically what she has said. And of course, it says, writer of firsthand Cold War history in America, 1962 to current. I've not read any of her works, but she reaches out to me and tells me Voigt is a con artist. And yes, handwriting doesn't lie. It sounds like she's on the side of what I'm talking about with handwriting, but then goes on to say my connection to my half-brother Obama, I don't know if she means Barack Obama or not, was proven by Perkins Cole and then denied. I am the real Zodiac, female, living in Polk County, Florida.
What?
Well, my response was, that's awesome. There's never been a single description in any file that supports a female Zodiac, but you definitely made me giggle. Right. And I'm thinking she's going to come back with some information, but that's extremely cryptic as far as I'm concerned. You're related to Obama and you're the Zodiac. This sounds to me like Deborah Perez, who was claimed to be the love child of JFK and Marilyn Monroe, and then subsequently turns around and says she is the daughter of the Zodiac. Oh, I'm exhausted with people just not being.
That's weird. She totally changed gears. First she says, oh, I'm a historian writing about the Cold War. And then she goes off on those tangents.
Yeah. It gets even better because in the process of this, she goes on and says, here is my documented call to the FBI concerning my half-brother's birth certificate on FBI birther reports website. Just because you don't know the truth doesn't make my intel false. I never said her intel was false as far as Obama. I have no way of proving or disproving this, and I'm not about to climb into researching it. You're coming at me with something that doesn't matter to me. So, of course, my response was to giggle because, again, we've never heard or seen. This is why I want to stick with the FOIA files and the information given there to the police and the police reports and the things from the very beginning, because everything has been so construed from there on out. She goes on to say, well, I didn't know I'd be mentioned in your show today. Well, all I mentioned was she claims to be the Zodiac and she's a female. I'm so used to be blown off that I quit chasing it. I do recognize you from the Bartow jail in 2020 when you presented my affidavit for signature. I have no clue what this person is talking about. Whoa. I have no idea where the Bartow jail is. In 2020, we obviously had the shutdown. Most courts and everything was closed down. You couldn't get into anywhere. So even if I was acting as a notary, it wasn't likely that I was at any jail. Do you know where Bartow jail is?
I have no idea.
Again, very confused. And if you're in Polk County, Florida, how could I possibly be there when I live in California? Again, it's cryptic, it's confusing. There's just really, it's nonsense. There's no need to do this to somebody. I don't know who John Voigt. Clearly, you're not watching the show, so it's making me think that your research in the Cold War history is going to be a bit confusing as well, because I don't know who John Voigt is personally either. And
he's
to the best
actor.
Oh,
he's Angelina Jolie's dad.
So she's confusing Tom Voigt
with John Voigt. That cowboy.
Okay. And to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen his face. I just know that most of the intel on Zodiac is fake. Clearly, you do too. I received a marriage proposal from Mike Volan, aka Sal. He said he was Vince Foster's son. I was also fake married to Mike Zulo Moore, and the face that he tried to pass off his fake evidence for real in my brother's forged birth certificate is so typical of him. He owns nothing either. My father, Tom Owens, was the original suspect. I've never heard of Tom Owens either.
Me either.
Was the original suspect, as you most likely know. No, not as I most likely know. Why are you assuming or asserting yourself as if you've given me any information that I can even work with? I have nothing, and I'm not about to go looking up names like Vanilla Tom Owens or Mike Moore or all of these names you're giving me that are likely going to I'm not going to find anything.
Yeah.
Big waste of time. But eventually ruled out, but not before doing serious damage to our family's reputation. Oh, okay. So the original suspect who was ruled out, you want to now bring up and throw back into the mix and say that he's ruled out, but it's ruined my family's reputation? Like, I just don't understand where this person's coming from. I say it's cryptic when really it's like the person's on drugs. They are back and forth and all over the place. But eventually ruled out, but not before doing serious damage to our family's reputation. So where do we go from here? I have no freaking clue. I have no freaking clue. Let's get down to earth. Let's give me some evidence or some research or something that I can actively work with. But instead of that, because I don't answer fast enough for this person, this is another narcissistic trait of individuals who cannot they think they own your time or that they're going to get your immediate time. So I'm getting these blings back and forth on LinkedIn about these messages that are coming in from this person. And I didn't go to look at them because, again, none of it makes any sense to me. You're not coming at me in the right direction. LinkedIn is not the forum to do something like this. If you want to speak to me, you email me. Or you call me. My information is out there. So when I don't respond to these multiple messages, this person then, what happened to them in childhood doesn't matter. So let's just get rid of them. Well, that's all I need to know about you. Adios. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know about your childhood. And I never said it didn't matter. Like, the only thing I said is you made me giggle. I've never heard that it was a female. But this person is now attacking me, blowing me up. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning.
I hope you're catching on to all of this great stuff.
Yeah, someone message was blowing you up on LinkedIn.
Yeah. And because crazy. It seems very crazy.
I mean, it's logical sense that you would email a person. You wouldn't, like, really?
Right. Just like with this last gentleman who said he was familiar and knew Gary Post, he at least took the time to make a phone call to me to sit down and cover and go over some stuff. And I have a little bit of follow-up on that too. Let me see where I put that. Okay, yes. So on the next slide, I did have a follow-up on Voigt's site actually mentions a brown Ford Mustang or a Chevy Corvair. This is the Post, I think, connection and Voigt's spelling that we're going to talk about here. So evidently there had been a Ford Mustang mentioned, and it is on Tom Voigt's site. However, I tend to wonder, even if somebody thought Ford Mustang or Chevy Corvair, they obviously went with Chevy Corvair because they tried to pinhole Arthur Lee Allen over the Corvair, right?
Yeah.
So it's one or the other, but we don't know. So let's just throw it out there and see who it sticks to. However, everything else for Post just doesn't make any sense. Running a group of teenagers is just not my idea of what the Zodiac would be involved with. So now I'm starting to see what this difference is, and maybe there's a reason why Voigt allows his name to be spelled so many different ways in so many different places so that somebody can't locate or find him. I don't know what the reasoning would be, but we do see in Voigt's own information on his website that he spells his name Voigt. Unless somebody else wrote this and wrote it all wrong, we see Voigt over and over and over again with no H. Then on Fox News, which can we really trust them? They do get things wrong quite a bit. in November or December of 1998, they've spelled his name Tom Voigt with an H. So it seems to me that everything about this man is to derive confusion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we see that name change and spelling change all the time with these cronies. So
Jack, Terrence.
Yeah,
like
and
just
even John Walsh too. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we're about ready to climb back into him here in a second after I follow some of this cleanup and laundry. But I did go back and I found the actual composites where Dennis had placed one of Jack's pictures next to the Sonoma County composite, because we had Tutuabon. I'm saying that right. Tutotabon. Another person on YouTube that comments something I had never noticed before in the San Francisco composite sketch. The Zodiac suspect has a closed up left eye in relation to his right. And of course, he's saying the Zodiac San Francisco sketch. It does slightly, I think, look in the Zodiac sketch from San Francisco that is, but I noticed it obviously more in the Sonoma County composite, which again is just a dead ringer for Jack.
Mm-hmm.
And I also got a response back. Remember when I said I got hit up by an email from the medical facilities that were those pop-up tents during COVID for testing and vaccines and things like that? They sent me a bill asking me to pay. Of course, 6 years later, I might add, wanting insurance information or somebody to bill when I in fact paid ahead of time. I was getting ready to leave to Washington to do trial, and I had to have a test before I left. So this was the response after I emailed them and told them my experience. They said, "Thank you for reaching out. We sincerely apologize for the confusion the situation have caused." I think that should be has caused. But upon reviewing your account, we confirmed that the charge was a billed in error. The charge was for a COVID-19 test. However, there was no PCR test order on file. The only service recorded for the date of service was a COVID-19 antigen test, and payment was initially collected during your visit. Please be assured that we have adjusted the charges and your account now reflects a zero balance. Kindly disregard the bill you received. Kindly. We apologize for any We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused and truly appreciate your understanding. If you have any further questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact us. Regards, Eunice.
Okay, thank you, Eunice.
Thank you, Eunice, for admitting that I was right.
Well, it almost seems like they were almost like trying to see if you're going to pay first, and then, when you wrote back and was like, no, this is incorrect. Then they're like, oh, okay, oh, sorry, my bad. It was like they were probably not even going to say anything if you would just went ahead and paid it or went ahead and provided your information.
Exactly, that's my point. Do you know? Probably
people do that all the time on the internet, on emails. I get emails all the time. I'm like, what the hell is this for? So
absolutely, hundreds of thousands of these emails went out based on the fact that these people were the ones responsible for these pop-up tents in many locations. I don't know if they serviced only California or if it was United States wide. And obviously them being given the contract was another favor during this whole COVID epidemic that allowed somebody to make a lot of money. And now they're looking to double down and even triple down possibly on it by billing insurances. If most people forgot what it was that they'd done and didn't remember that they had paid, they wouldn't know to shout back and say, hey, no, I don't owe you a darn thing. So you're right, Lindsay. This is just going to be another one of these things where they're making more money than they should be.
Yep.
Boy. So to top that off, I watched a documentary called Thank You, Dr. Fauci by Jenner First. And we've had evidently Fauci in this system of CDC and disease and viruses for 5 decades.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know of him until the virus, really. I mean, you didn't hear his name come up or anything.
Mm-mm. And you know, some of the key points of this, I'm not going to go over everything because I just don't have time for it. We have all of these celebrities in Hollyweird that are idolizing him. Thank you, Dr. Fauci. Thank you. You know, and there was mentions in this thing that Dr. Fauci was really there perpetrating a pandemic and then looking to cure it in order to do some type of justice for this upper echelon of individuals. So it doesn't shock me that these people were the people who were idolizing and thanking him. I do want to note that there's so many cross-referencing pieces of information in this documentary that actually we had something like 9 grants that were going to Wuhan from the NIH and the US. He and all the people that have been surrounding the so-called conspiracy behind this have all been attributed or linked to the Wuhan lab and other actual pandemic outbreaks, such as AIDS in Africa. During COVID, it shows that Fauci went from a net worth of $5 million to $12 million. What does that say to us right there?
You made a killing.
Yep.
Made a killing. Now, if you take and step back from the individuals that were doing the polio vaccine in Africa, then we had an outbreak of HIV, and cross-connect that to something that I found. We didn't go over all of these. I used this to kind of show people the different programs from Operation Paperclip, Bluebird, MK Ultra, Midnight Climax, the gist of what we believe Jack possibly was involved with, and many other human experiments that were going on in mind control. And it's called What Really Happened, the history the government hopes you don't learn. And the URL for this is https://whatreallyhappened.com/capital WRHARTICLES/biowar.html. And I brought this back up because of this whole new documentary that came out on Fauci, just to kind of run you through some of the things that they were doing. And I'm not going to read all of them to you because it's very in depth. It's over 39 pages, or I think it's 39 pages long when I printed it. But I did think it was worth revitalizing, at least for the last 50 years, to see what was going on. And a lot of this was done against the Nuremberg laws that were set. So,
Yep.
1967, the CIA and Department of Defense implement Project MK Naomi. It's the successor to MK Ultra and designed to maintain, stockpile, and test biological and chemical weapons. We're not supposed to be doing this. There are laws against this. There are bans against this, right? Let's see if I can just pick out a couple here. United States, 1970, United States intensifies its development of ethnic weapons. Military Review, November 1970, designed to selectively target and eliminate specific ethnic groups who are susceptible due to genetic differences and variations in DNA. I felt that this was something that COVID was, because they indicate that more than 50% of the population is asymptomatic when it comes to viruses. So I thought it was very interesting that they are learning to program, or as they call gain of function research, which they're helping these viruses to gain a function that makes them stronger, to attack and to adhere to the human body in a way they had never done before, in order to prevent the body from having any ability to kick or heal from that particular virus. So, this was an interesting one. 1969, on June 9th, 1969, Dr. Donald M. MacArthur, then Deputy Director of Research and Technology for the Department of Defense, appeared before the House Subcommittee on Appropriations to request funding for a project to produce a synthetic biological agent for which humans have not yet acquired a natural immunity. Dr. MacArthur asked for $10 million to produce this agent over the next 5 to 10 years. The congressional record reveals that according to the plan for the development of this germ agent, the most important characteristic of the new disease would be that it might be refractory, resistant to the immunological, and therapeutic processes upon which we depend to maintain our relative freedom from infectious disease. AIDS first appeared as a public health risk 10 years later, appearing first in a population of gay men who had been subjects in a test of new hepatitis vaccine. In 1989, work by Alan Cantwell Jr., MD, linking AIDS to the hepatitis viral B vaccine experiments was suppressed at the 1989 AIDS International Conference by officials of the World Health Organization. The reason I wanted to mention that is because the same people who were involved with the COVID pandemic were involved with the polio vaccine that was supposedly being tested in Africa, which caused an AIDS outbreak. Then we see it actually move into the United States. And as much as this individual, Alan Cantwell Jr., MD, was suppressed, so was, let me see his name here, where Robert Redfield, director of the CDC, was suppressed during open talks and task force with Trump. He was basically kicked out because he came to Fauci in the beginning and said that this did not look like something that was a natural transition from animal to human, that he believed that based on some of the attributes that it was a lab created virus. Wow. And it being that gain of function, it did gain a function. They had 4 attributes, he says, that was attributed to this deadly virus, which caused 20 million deaths and $25 billion in costs. And those 4 items, let's see where I put that, is 3 spike proteins from HIV and a and a furin cleavage site. And this is how it attaches to the cells and becomes so infectious to humans. So based on all of that, and let's go with Adam Andrzejewski. He was a columnist for Forbes magazine, very high up, had always been attributed to great articles, very well prided in what it was that he reported on and did, found himself fired at the hands of COVID because he was speaking out about Fauci. So what and why does Fauci have all of this protection, and how is it that he can get away with all of this when he's been involved with 5 decades of this stuff? Well, let's tell you why. On the history of the government respect for human life, there is actually Public Law 95-79, PL 95-79, Title 50, Chapter 32, Section 1520, Chemical and Biological Warfare Program. The use of human subjects will be allowed for the testing of chemical and biological agents by the U.S. Department of Defense, accounting to congressional committees with respect to experiments and studies. Followed by the Secretary of Defense may conduct tests and experiments involving the use of chemical and biological warfare agents on civilian populations within the United States. The source, again, Public Law 95-79, Title 8, Section 808, was founded July 30th of 1977. So it reports, as you can see, Nolan, all the different sources that you can cite it from. So basically, they have this right to do this to us.
The CIA had been doing those experiments for years illegally.
Yes, they did find that their CIA was involved. CIA was involved, and there were meetings at the CIA office that included Fauci and the other individuals that have been associated with him through the COVID pandemic.
That's why Frank Olson was murdered.
Exactly.
He knew about it, and he was one of the scientists, one of the engineers, scientific engineers that worked for the CIA and defense. And he wasn't really happy when he found out what his work was really going towards.
Exactly.
He thought he was doing something for the good of people, but
you don't speak out against the agenda.
Yeah, so
this is much like the district attorney in New York who refused to run for mayor, even though he probably would have done a darn good job, but he was afraid that he'd be put on the firing line and that his life would be at stake because he would speak out against these people who he's being told not to speak out about.
There was large-scale experimentation in this town in France. They basically poisoned the whole town, and many people got really sick, and some people died.
Was that through the water?
Experiments in the Bay Area, too, in San Francisco, with clouds of different chemicals being unwittingly dropped on the populace.
I think you're going to see all of what you're talking about in that documentary. Thank you, Dr. Fauci. Because you got to remember, he's been involved for 50 years. So 50 years puts him back to 1975, 1976.
Yeah. So that title should be lack of respect, not respect.
Yeah. I know
they don't respect human life. Well,
no.
If it's them or their family or other rich people, then they respect them. But if you're a rank and file person or someone that's in jail or even college students, they've been experimenting on people for years.
We are their budding joke and their experiment to all degrees, it seems like, or at least it feels like when you hear about these types of things. There was so much controversy, and then it's considered a conspiracy because Dr. Fauci says if you question science, then if you question me, then you question science. No, we question the deadliness of it. There's a reason why biowarfare has been banned. There's a reason why that's one of the reasons the president can override a veto to Congress to go to war. It is so potentially dangerous. The fact that you're even attempting to research and create these things, one leak. It says our labs are not prepared to contain these type of antigens and all of these different diseases that they're working on and attempting to... There was some article written by one of the gentlemen called Diffuse, and it basically 1 year before the whole COVID pandemic described creating the pandemic so that they could discover a cure. In essence, being ahead of the game in case a pandemic happens. Well, you're killing people to do that, and it didn't exist before you implemented it. And then to find out there's a landmark deal and contract with Moderna for a vaccination that existed also years before the pandemic happened. I'm a little in shock. I'm a little blown away. I didn't know this was something that I would face or that my livelihood in general could be shut down as it was during COVID. Now, that's what brings me to our presentation and what we talk about with the Zodiac and the program that it is devised by, right? So we climbed out of Tom Voigt basically at this point and into Bart Baggett because I was a student of Bart Baggett when Dennis Kaufman contacted me. So I wanted to show you guys some of the things that I pulled down from Bart's site. One of them is the analysis of these 5 samples will be finished soon, so check back. This is one of the Zodiac letters up here in the left-hand corner, and I want you to note that this copyright is 1995 to 1999, last updated September 17th of 1999. So at approximately the same time that I'm saying that Tom Voigt is doing the episode with John Walsh on the Zodiac, we find that there's inclusiveness between Bart Baggett. He's aware of who Tom Voigt is. He's worked with Tom Voigt. In fact, we're going to see that he even promotes Tom Voigt. And then he becomes himself with his own false suspect, Deborah Perez. It says Bart Baggett is an American author and speaker. Baggett is a 10-time author who has appeared on over 1,500 radio TV shows, including CNN, Today Show, Good Morning America, and appeared in over 16 feature films. Lindsay, I wish you were here speaking right now because Good Morning America.
I'm here.
Yay! Isn't Good Morning America the one that John Walsh said that he wanted to live his investigation through instead of the FBI?
Yes, but he also was on Good America the day they found Adam's head.
Right, and he allowed that show to go on.
That's what he was. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perpetrating a con on Greater America when his son's head had been found. Mm-hmm. So in addition to Bart's success as an author and an expert, you might recognize Bart Baggett from his many appearances on national TV commercials, feature films, documentaries, or as a guest on the top-rated radio and TV shows over the past 2 decades, including CNN's Larry King Live, Shown in the Image, Glenn Black Show, Paula Zahn, Howard Stern, Good Morning America, and The Today Show. So it just goes on and on and on, and this affiliation with Hollyweird continues to occur. Now, I was told at one point in time that I was in over my head when I was ready to release my opinion that I needed to have approved through Bart Baggett, unknowingly having been given altered letters. And I will state with infatuation, in fact, this is an area I would actually bet on, and I'm not a gambler, is that he knew exactly the size of these letters. And he provided them to me altered and enlarged, both height and width, which to me is a disgusting turn of events for me to find out in the end from Terrence Pascal that they were not 8.5 by 11 letters.
So is Baggett a handwriting expert, or what's his expertise?
He proclaims to be a marketing expert, but he found a niche for creating a school to teach document examiners, and he is the school that I attended. So I was an apprentice in his school at the time Dennis Kaufman came to me.
So he ran the school, but is he actual handwriting expert?
Purportedly, when he has time and he's not too busy, he does his job, because I've come up against cases. In fact, I just heard from another document examiner who was on a case with him, in which case he provided the very evidence she needed to support and prove her case as an opposing examiner against him, which is what he did with me in another case. He attempted to proclaim that the signature was an authentic signature when the exemplars that he used to study, one of them was the actual sample that the person used to cut and paste onto the lease. And his proclamation was, "Oh, I was just busy. I must admit it. Must have missed it." That's not a reason to miss something. And you chose to write an opinion in a case you couldn't even appear in court. So Bart Baggett wasn't even present, and the client wasn't even allowed to present their opinion from him because he wasn't there as a witness.
Wow.
So
I think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, all he did was charge these people money for what? A sloppy job, and then he couldn't even be there to perform on their side. And maybe that was selective. Maybe he just, in one of my very first cases, I thought that the signature was authentic. My clients paid for me to go all the way out to South Carolina. I got there. There was an opposing examiner. I was provided with many more instances of this man's signature, which concluded my opinion was right. But because I was paid by this client, I had to render my opinion to Bart first, and then Bart had to tell me what to tell the client, and Bart came back and said that it was a forgery. But he's making more than 50% of my income at this point in time because I'm still an apprentice. So every 50% of the money I was paid to go out to South Carolina went into his pocket, and he was wrong. I was right. Then when I was ready to release my opinion in the Zodiac case with CBS 13 News, I got a phone call from him telling him I could be kicked out of the school. I could lose my tuition, which was $12,000 at the time. I was physically sick to my stomach. Did I just invest, almost 2 years into an education that I was about to lose because I wanted to tell the truth? And then ultimately to find out that his suspect was false from the gate? Deborah Perez was never a legitimate.
Ridiculous as a suspect. Ridiculous.
Right.
That's like a hoax.
It was a hoax. 1 year she's claiming the love child of JFK and Marilyn Monroe, and the next year she's the daughter of the Zodiac killer, and she's not even biologically related to the man.
No, she's a publicity hound. So who controls Baggett? That's what I want to know.
Hollyweird.
Interesting.
I mean, clearly Hollyweird. Why else did he move from Texas to California 10 months after I became an apprentice, after saying I have the entire California area to myself? 10 months later, he moves to Los Angeles, and it's all to perpetuate this false suspect on Deborah Perez and this documentary, which I successfully blew up, I guess, because it never happened, it never occurred, and everybody debunked Deborah Perez from day one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But they had her on the news and in the Chronicle, and she was for a minute.
Oh,
she was
all
big.
Across the world. Everybody got to hear. She was the daughter of the Zodiac. And 5 seconds of the FBI recanting, stating that her dad, her adopted father, was not the Zodiac. 5 seconds only made it here locally. It probably didn't even make it across the United States.
Well, it's funny to me that they all these people all come from Texas, like so many of them, and then we see Jack back and forth to Texas all the time. It's not a coincidence, and there's a lot of key figures in other cases that I have found that have lots of ties to Texas as well, in particularly the Charlie Kirk case. So it's just wild.
Let me see what he says, because he does have a couple things to say about the Zodiac's writing. So he's got a couple letters up here: the Button letter, the Riverside City College desk poem, and the Zodiac debut letter. Bart Baggett puts on his website, note, these graphics were purchased from the most complete Zodiac site available. And you can also purchase most of the high resolution graphics. They're not high resolution. They're altered graphics, people. and see other letters not published here at the ZodiacKiller.com website. So here's the inclusion. If everybody thinks it's just a mere coincidence that Bart tried to keep me from rendering my opinion on Jack's handwriting, had a fake suspect, just as Tom Voigt runs on all his sites, and he's surrounding the same people such as America's Most Wanted, John Walsh, Tom Voigt, and then promoting Tom Voigt for people to go purchase this stuff from him. It says the person who runs this site takes donations for the full graphics and has been very helpful during this investigation and TV show production. Read the Hines report, which points circumstantial evidence at Lawrence Kane. So again, now he's naming not Deborah Perez, but he's naming Lawrence Kane. So who are the suspects? Rick Marshall, Arthur Lee Allen, Andy Walker, Lawrence Kane, Michael O'Hare, Bruce Davis, Ted Kaczynski, others. This looks like a how-to guide to dissuade the public from figuring out who they should even be looking at when he repeatedly puts forth people who have been cleared and assisting in the confusion.
That's Arthur Lee Allen in the bottom right, right?
Yes, I did throw him up. Oh,
yeah, that's him.
He looks nothing like the Zodiac, but
not at all.
I'm wondering if this is the go-to manual for the 20-on-20 DNA test that was done where they ruled out 8 suspects, which included most of the people on this list. So I'm not sure if this particular website was before or after the actual DNA test, but it probably was around the same time frame. He goes on to say, in my opinion, the Zodiac writings don't match checks written by Arthur Lee Allen, and the document examiner in the 1970s agree. See the findings. Even his poorly written custody writing doesn't match. What about Lawrence Kane's writing from police files under questioning? Fake writing? See it here. So again, I'm just at a loss. Some of the last items that I actually had from Tom Voigt's site were these pictures that he's taken of what they want to call the Zodiac cabin. So it says, located in an isolated spot in the hills over Lake Herman Road in Vallejo, the Zodiac Shack has been rumored for years by locals to be the former hideout of the Zodiac Killer. The property has been abandoned for decades, but I found it thanks to directions from some residents of nearby Benicia. These photos were taken on the morning of December 20th, 1998. Click pictures for larger images. It goes on to make comments like the shack is just past the ranch of the late Stella Borges, who discovered Zodiac's Lake Herman Road victims on December 20th of 1968. The next one, I found myself out of cell phone range. If Zodiac really did use this area to hide from police, he picked a good spot. Welcome to the world's scariest hallway. So he's already promoting this, even though there's no known evidence to support that the Zodiac was here. So he's just creating a little bit more of a mystery and nonsense and no real way. I mean, if the Zodiac, I contend, is living on a makeshift school bus, which is why he talks about a school bus in his letters, and then later says, if you thought I was going to blow up a bunch of children, then you're basically just stupid and morons, is a key indicator that he is the bomb on the bus. He has the information, he knows what's going on, and he can bring people down with that information. So I'm not going to read any more of these, but you can go on through. He's even done America's Most Wanted target Zodiac. In October 1998, America's Most Wanted hired me to act as a consultant in their first feature on the Zodiac case, as well as to write the cover story for their magazine, Manhunter. The show aired December 1998 and was their highest rated of the year. Manhunter rapidly sold out. Surprised at the public's enduring interest in the case, AMW quickly developed another television feature using the FBI's John Douglas to profile Zodiac. So they saw a way to make money, so they repeated it.
Yep. Well, they use that rhetoric, the same rhetoric too. Manhunter, the hunters will become the hunted. Like it's all, and then John Walsh had the show On the Hunt. It's like, what is this? You know, it's literally a pattern.
Yeah. You clearly couldn't even investigate and hunt your own son's killer.
Exactly.
I mean, what makes you the leading expert or knowledgeable individual to lead any investigation when you've done everything wrong in the investigation of your son's own murder? Not having the FBI in, not wanting the FBI or law enforcement to dig into the skeletons, dropping a lawsuit against Sears because you don't want to get up there and be grilled in deposition about your skeletons.
Was there any ever any allegation or investigation as child neglect in regard to his son's murder? Child that young.
Sort of. It was sort of with the boy that was living with them, the younger boy. Oh God, I just lost his name. That Reve was having an affair with. He was like 20, 21. And that was supposed to be the godfather of Adam, and he would take him places and help pick him up and stuff like that. But also, I think there was evidence of abuse based on the depositions and in whenever they did interviews of James Campbell is his name.
Oh,
and,
yes, that's the friend that told
and so
drugs, right?
Yes, he was the one that had told his attorney about it, and then that's whenever they went after, and told Sears, that the Sears attorney, and was like, oh, well, we're going to get him for this, and then they agreed just to like not sue Sears because they didn't want their cocaine history and abuse of drugs being aired out, like you said, their laundry. So I gather that there's child abuse based on James's statement of how, like, for instance, like I think sometime that week or in the weeks before, he had took Adam to see a movie, and the movie was like 10 o'clock at night is when it started, and then so who knows when it got over with, and then after it got over, James went to some place and grabbed a can of beer, supposed to be one can, and then took Adam home. So it's like, why are you taking a 6-year-old child home that late? Then you're going to somewhere to get a beer. Like, I mean, to me, that's some type of child abuse. If you're letting this non-biological person carry your 6-year-old child out late at night like that, and suscepting them to things that they shouldn't be susceptible to.
I want to know what kids movie plays at 10 o'clock at night.
Right. I don't even know if it mentioned the movie, the name of it. I'd have to go back and see what the in the reports that say. But yeah, I think that's actually when it happened. Possibly whenever I think they had James do it.
Right.
Mm.
Insane. Well, I did find one blank entry for a mailed letter on April 30th of 67 in the Sherry Jo Bates case on Tom Voigt's website, postmark Riverside, California, sent to the Riverside Press Enterprise. I am not sure if this is one we have already seen because, of course, once again, it has been torn down, but it would be interesting to know which one this is. I thought I was done with Tom Voigt, but my gosh, we've got just a little bit more information. So on 1/19/01, he posts, in the last few years, I've collected many police reports and other Zodiac related items that I haven't posted at the site, although I have received many requests to do so. In most cases, the sheer size of the documents, as well as privacy issues, have made posting them unrealistic. In other cases, such as with video or audio, the cost has been too high. As a solution, I've decided to make some of these items available to order, including Don Chaney interview. Oh, Don Chaney, don't get me involved. It turns out Don Chaney was he one of the suspects in the... I'm trying to remember who he is in the because I think I get him mixed with the other political guy, Cheney, that was involved with the COVID stuff.
Oh, yeah, you did, yeah.
It says Darlene Farron.
You're probably thinking of Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney, yes. He's involved with the COVID stuff somehow, or at least some attribute of getting the biowarfare program or ban cut off so that they could continue with that gain-of-function research. Darlene Farron, Mike Mageau, Vallejo Police Department report, Paul Stein, San Francisco Police Department report, Kathleen Johns police reports. I want to see the Kathleen Johns police reports. Those are interesting. Suspect reports including Arthur Lee Allen, Lawrence Kane, Rick Marshall, and Andy Walker. Howard Stern show from December 1998 featuring this site. For a complete list of items, email me.
Howard Stern? Wow.
Yeah,
I would like to see that one.
I tell you, Howard Stern, Jesse Ventura, what's the other guy that does the He acts like he's on our side, but I don't believe he is. I can't think of his name now. Anyways, we are
Not Larry King. Larry King was one of them too.
No. This is one of these guys that do a podcast that
Rogan.
Yes.
Oh, Joe Rogan.
Joe
Yeah.
Rogan.
He's really not on our side. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think in some instances, but not 100%.
He gives us just enough to help us believe, even though he probably knows more, and he is not telling us that more. But there's somebody who's dictating what it is that he shares.
Oh,
shows
yeah.
For sure.
Mm-hmm,
So that's it, you guys. We're at the end of our segment. This has been absolutely awesome. I think next week we will be past the Tom Voigt stuff at a minimum and back on into the actual letters written to Tom Voigt. So everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday. Thank you, you guys. Peace.
See ya. Bye.
No!